Hi everybody, Tammy here, and I wanted to offer another tip as we close out the school year on what we can do with Google Classroom to finish out the year so we're able to start fresh next year. Um, so we have Google Classroom here. These are several classes I either started just for demos or I'm co-teaching or I'm enrolled in. So I just wanted to show some for demonstration purposes. So the first thing I want to talk about is before you finish out the year, you want to return any work back to your students. And I think this is important as the students get older and they have created some major projects or research papers or whatever, and they've turned it in. When a student does turn something in, turn an assignment in on Google Classroom, then when they have submitted the turn in, then you may not know this, but it changes permissions of that assignment or that document or that Google Slides or whatever that file is. It changes permissions to you. So you become the owner. Once they hit turn in, you become the owner as the teacher, and they are only able to have a view only permission on that assignment. So they're not able to change it after they have submitted that assignment. So you become the owner. So before you delete the class and before you delete students, you want to make sure you return any work, especially in the older grade levels. I think that's important that you return it. So let me show you how to do that. There's an easy way to do that. I think I'm going to use this one because I've seen her, this particular teacher that she has me as a co-teacher in here. So what you would do is you would go to grades, and you can click on the three dots next to any of these assignments, and I'll choose some that have some turned in here. You just click on those three dots and just say return all. You're done. You've taken the grades. We're finished with this. We're finished with the year. So we're just wanting to return that work, and that changes the permissions back to where the student is owning it, because you may not want to keep it. So you may end up wanting to delete it, and if you deleted it while you're the owner, then the student lost their work. So go ahead and return their work before you do anything to close out the year in Google Classroom. So that's how you would do it. You want to return. There are other ways to do it, but it's basically the same thing. It's going to say return all, or something like that. But this is an easy way just to right click next to the actual assignment and return all of that work. All right, so let's go back to my classes here. All right, so that's one thing. And I do want to speak a little bit about the ownership in just a second when we're talking about Drive. But the next thing I want to talk about is how do we treat the class at the end of the year? So there's several things we can do. One thing is we can just remove students. So if you go into the class and you go into people, you see your list of students right here. You can remove all of your students by clicking on that top box, and that chooses all of the students there, and then go to your actions and click on remove. So that will remove all of the students, and that's if you want to keep that class intact. And that is not my recommendation, but some of you, there might be a reason you may want to do that. I think for this instance, for this case, that might be a good idea. I have some resources I used one time, and I have some resources for students, and there will be another batch of new students that would benefit from those resources as well. So it just depends on you, but my suggestion is not to remove the students from your class. My suggestion is we're going to actually archive the class. But I did want to show you that that's one way you can wrap up this Google Classroom, is just to remove the students, and then you start with new students next year with all the stuff that you have in there. So that's one way. I'm going to actually unclick that, and then I'm going to go back to classes. All right, and then the other thing you can do is to archive it. So let me just do this. I can archive. When you archive a class, you still have access to it. It doesn't go away, but it freezes the class. The students can't do anything in there. You can't do anything in there. It just freezes it, but you still have access to any posts that you made, any assignments that you did, where you can go back into it. So I'm going to go ahead and let me do this one. I'm going to archive this class, and it will ask if you want to do that. You say yes. Let's go ahead and archive that class. And then when you click in the upper left in the menu bars, you will go down to the bottom and you'll see archived classes. So you still have access to the class, but it's frozen and it removes it from your homepage for your classes. So if I go to classes, you'll notice that it's no longer here in my homepage. So it's not going to clutter that. And so when you're starting fresh for the new year, I just want to see that current year's classes. I don't want to see old classes. So what you're going to do is archive those classes. It freezes it, but it doesn't delete it. Deleting is kind of severe because you may have put a lot of work into your classroom and you may want to refer back to it. So archiving, I think, is the best thing to do. The other thing to think about when you're wrapping up Google Classroom is that you may not be aware that when you create a Google Classroom, that all the assignments and all the files that are done in Google Classroom are found in Google Drive. So let me show you real quick. If I go to my Drive and I scroll down, you're going to have a folder called Classroom. And when you click on that, you're going to have a folder for each one of your classes. And that's, if you didn't know that, that's a way you can easily find some assignments. All the assignments will be in there. And that's what I was talking about, how it changes ownership. It's basically the permissions in Drive. So all of assignments can be found in Google Drive in the Classroom folder and then sorted by your particular classroom. So we do want to make sure that we're really careful about deleting. You can take these files right here. My suggestion would be create an archived classroom folder and then put all of these folders into that particular archive folder. So when you go to Classroom, you're just going to see your current year. So we're talking about what do we do to wrap up a year to get ready for a new year and have it look organized and decluttered. So that would be my suggestion, is create a folder called Classroom Archived, and then put all of these folders with all of those documents and files and put it in there. And then when you start the new year and you have your new classrooms, you'll have just those classes showing. So let me go back to my classrooms. Okay. And then the last thing I would want to mention is calendars. When you do create a Google Classroom and you have made assignments that have due dates, then it's going to place it on a calendar. And so if you go to your Google Calendar, you would see calendars for each one of your classrooms that you have created. So what you can do is just go to the calendar and you can delete those if you want to. That would be my suggestion, is just to delete or remove those calendars from your Google Calendar, because you're not going to be needing that anymore. And you're going to be having new calendars that come in with your new classrooms for the new school year. So I hope that helps. Don't forget to return work to your students. Archive your classrooms. Just click on the three dots and hit archive, and that will put it in archive, and then it won't show up here in the main page, and you can start fresh next year. If you have any questions about Google Classroom or Drive or how to organize or how to wrap up the year, just don't hesitate to let me know. I hope this helps.